fellow movie crusaders, and welcome to my latest episode. My name is Sean Wasserkrug, and today we're going to be reviewing one of the more anticipated films of the year, plus one of the more anticipated sequels of the year, Black Panther's Wakanda Forever. Now, this is a movie that obviously, due to events that's happened over the past year or two, was not what it was intended to be. I think everyone obviously knows that Black Panther, with the events of Chadwick Boseman passing away, the entire format of what the sequel was going to be has completely had to change. And because of that, the movie itself, I don't want to say it's got a lot of critical eyes on it, but it's one of those things where is this movie going to be as good as the first film, which was a Best Picture nominee, or is this just going to be a film that's going to basically feel like they're missing Chadwick Boseman greatly? Now, for me personally, I enjoyed the first Black Panther. I don't think it was as great as everyone made it out to be, but I thought it was a very solid introduction to, or a solid solo film for Chadwick Boseman's T'Challa character. I still think to this day that the worst thing they did in Black Panther outside of the CG cat fight in the third act was killing off Killmonger and Claw. I think those two characters had enough staying power to keep them in the franchise, to elevate their characters further, to use them in further films, and by killing two fantastic villains played by Michael B. Jordan and Andy Serkis off, it was greatly at the disservice to the Black Panther franchise as a whole. This time out, though, we're going up with the protagonist of Namor. He's basically the king of Talokan, which it's supposed to be Atlantis and the Atlanteans, but because of Aquaman and the DC, they decided to go more of a Mayan route with it. Namor is played by, and I'm gonna butcher this name, so I apologize, Tenoch Huerta. I'm not sure if I said the first name correctly. I think it's one of his very first roles. He's solid in the film overall. So, I mean, it's one. We'll touch on the Namor part, at least that storyline here in a little bit. But the main story is literally going to be based off of what happened to T'Challa. I mean, the movie does open up with the death of T'Challa. I mean, he does die off screen, and they do say it's because of an illness. So, and that's in the first minutes. That's not spoilers. That's just what it is. And so a lot of the film is Wakanda and, Shuri and Nakia and Okoye and everyone in Wakanda basically mourning plus wondering, where does Wakanda go from here? Because the king is gone, because the Black Panther is gone, the world is now coming for Wakanda. They want the vibranium. They think they are owed the vibranium. And without T'Challa / Black Panther there to protect them, Wakanda is now in danger. And that is the world that Wakanda is in going into the events of this film. Ramonda, played by always the amazing Angela Bassett, is basically holding everyone as firm as can be, while Shuri, played by Letitia Wright, is going through her mourning period. No one's seen Nakia since the events of Infinity War, and Okoye is doing her best to kind of keep everyone locked in, and M'Baku, the always great Winston Duke, is just being M'Baku. But when the events of Namor show up, and Namor basically is wanting them to capture a young scientist who can find vibranium, or he will invade Wakanda, that's where he kind of sets the story off into its tracks. We got Shuri, who's basically trying to just hold back her mourning of losing her brother. And Letitia Wright, I think, does Letitia Wright was fun. She was fun in Black Panther, and she was fun in Infinity War, but I was really worried about her ability to lead this film. I think she's a great secondary side character, but I was really worried about Letitia Wright being the lead of this film. Luckily, I was incorrect. I think Letitia Wright does a fantastic job as Shuri through this film. I think she does an incredible job of expressing her mourning of T'Challa, her anger, her frustration, her everything that Shuri has to go through in this film. I think Letitia Wright actually does a fantastic job in this film. Angela Bassett as Ramonda is amazing in this film. She's got so many great moments where you're just watching it and you're just in awe of how great Angela Bassett is. Danai Gurira, who plays Okoye, I love her, obviously, from The Walking Dead. She's great in this. Lupita Nyong'o as Nakia. great in this. Winston Duke Mbaku, great in this. If there's one positive thing I have about Wakanda Forever, is that everyone in this film, cast-wise, are all bringing their A-game acting. There is not a weak performance in the bunch. The thing that hurts Wakanda is the uneven story. And the story itself is not even that bad. It's just the way they go about telling the story that's a little off. Now, I was worried, and my co-star Brian Michaels was also worried, that we felt that this movie was going to be too much into the mourning of T'Challa. For the most part, outside of the first 15-20 minutes and then a little bit at the end, they kind of don't focus on that nearly as much because they have to get the story going. I do think Namor and the Mayans or Atlanteans, whatever you want to call them, I do think while them being solid villains, they are, I don't think they hit quite the same level or quite the same strongness of Killmonger in the previous film. And that's nothing against the performances. It's more when we do finally start to learn about these people and their world underwater, it kind of, to me, I was starting to lose interest. I don't think it was doing enough to captivate my attention. It just felt like exposition dumping at that point, and it wasn't doing enough to grasp my attention. Now, when they fight, and we have little battles here and there, they are interesting, they are exciting to watch and stuff like that, but there's a lot of unknown questions, there's a lot of things that weren't really explained, and just kind of, like, what these characters are, and I'm trying to, use my wording properly so I don't try to spoil things. But I think they could have gone through it a little bit better, with a little bit more storytelling, and probably could have done it in a way that didn't feel like an exposition dump, in the middle part of the film, which really made the film kind of drag for about 10-15 minutes. The outer cast, the introduction to Riri, or Rai, played by Dominique Thorne, who's going to be Ironheart. I actually really liked her performance. I actually liked her character. I thought she meshed really well with Okoye and Shuri, enough to the point that I'm kind of excited to see what she does in her show that she's going to get a Disney Plus show for Ironheart. I do say, though, I wasn't crazy about the Ironheart design as well as the design for another suit that happens later in the film. They did kind of look like Power Ranger rejects. I do think the other part of this film that doesn't necessarily quite work, much like the first Black Panther, is that the third act kind of feels rushed. I feel like this movie is 2 hours and I believe 2 hours and 40 minutes, 2 hours and 41 minutes, and I felt like they were doing they wasted so much time setting the table that they ran out of time and had to rush the third act. Not to say that the third act doesn't have its enjoyable, exciting, fun moments, but much like Black Panther, by the time we get to the end battle, it just kind of is a CG catfight and rhinos running around, and it just didn't hit as hard as the rest of Black Panther. And Wakanda Forever is a little bit of the same way. It's you're setting the table of all this stuff, and then you have all these big things that happen throughout the film. Some powerful moments throughout the film, especially by this cast. But by the time we get to the final battle, it's just not hitting as hard as it should. There's one big battle kind of with the Wakandans and the Mayans, or whatever you want to call them, in the film, and it just kind of didn't hit the way I wanted it to hit. It just felt like, Army 1 versus Army 2, while the main fight's happening elsewhere. And even then, the main fight, while solid as it was, still wasn't quite as good as it could have been. It's definitely better than the CGI catfight that we got between Killmonger and T'Challa in Black Panther 1. But it wasn't... It didn't... It still felt like it was missing something. There was maybe a couple scenes here and there that maybe Namor and this other character could have had to strengthen it a little bit more, but I just feel like there was something missing that really could have elevated this fight to a little bit more of a stronger case. I also think that probably also the big problem that this movie shouldn't have done, but I know if they didn't, then the masses would have been pissed. I don't think Black Panther was needed in this film. I don't think they needed to make a Black Panther in this movie. If I had it my way, excuse me, there's no final post-credit scene. There is a mid-credit scene, but there's no final post-credit scene. There is a scene where they create the new Black Panther in this movie. And I think that whole scene should have been the post-credit scene after credits, leading you into the third film, not really knowing what was going to happen with Black Panther. I think that would have been a better way of storytelling in this, and the movie itself would have been more about how Wakanda doesn't need a Black Panther to defend themselves, and it's them as a nation being able to defend themselves against Namor and whoever comes their way. I think adding Black Panther to it, it was very rushed, and it was very much like, oh, well, we gotta have Black Panther in here, or it's not a Black Panther movie. And it's not a Black Panther movie. It's a Wakanda movie. You didn't need Black Panther in this film. I mean, it's not that Black Panther is bad in the movie. It's not. It's just, it was very rushed. And I felt like it needed time to breathe. And I think that scene, which is a great scene, should have been left at the final post-credit scene leading into the third film and wondering where Black Panther itself was going to go in the franchise going into the third film. I think that would have been better. I think it would have been better storytelling. I think it would have worked better. But nonetheless, the movie is what we got. That's me going with my own writer brain on it and how I think things should have worked. That's not the movie we got. But nonetheless, it looks gorgeous because Ryan Coogler knows how to shoot his stuff. The soundtrack or the score, I think, was also done incredibly well. Like I said, the performances are top-notch. Letitia Wright shows she can lead. She can be a leading actress. Lupita Nyong'o continues to kill in every role she's in. Same thing with Winston Duke. Denai Guerrera, I still think, is a fantastic actress. I cannot wait for her to branch out and do other things outside of Okoye. Angela Bassett puts on a fantastic performance as Ramonda. Martin Freeman does show up as Everett Ross. I do feel like his storyline was probably the one storyline that wasn't necessarily needed. It was more of a tacked-on storyline in the film. I love Martin Freeman, but that storyline did not feel like it needed to be in the film overall. And like I said, the introduction of Dominique Thorne and Tenoch Huerta as Riri, or Rai, I don't know, and Namor, I think were solid additions to the cast, and I want to see what we do more past that. Wakanda Forever, I think, is based off of just what the movie was. Is it better than the first Black Panther movie? I will give it the nod, and I will say that it is better than the first film because, like I said, the third act of Black Panther really fell apart. This one wasn't a good third act as well, but it does not fall apart like the first Black Panther does. So I will give Wakanda Forever the bump above Black Panther as the better film. But nonetheless, if you're a fan of Black Panther, or if you're a fan of the MCU, you're going to watch Wakanda Forever anyway. I'm going to give Wakanda Forever an 84%. I think it's really, really good at what it's doing when it works. And then the stuff that doesn't work is not bad. It's just, oh man, come on, you could have done better than that. And like I said, I put that a lot of them having to kind of scramble and figure things out with the passing of Chadwick Boseman. I think it's a solid effort. I want to see what they're going to go through with the third film. It didn't deter me from wanting to watch this again or see where they go from here with these characters. I really love all these characters, and I think these two films did a good job of establishing Wakanda, or these characters in Wakanda, a lot better for me, that I care about where these characters are going to go from here. I wish there was a little more I could touch on, but I don't want to spoil. Like I said, there is only a mid-credit scene. There is no post-credit scene, so once the mid-credit scene ends, you can go home. But nonetheless, like I said, 84% for Wakanda Forever. Solid sequel. Third act kind of falls apart, and some exposition dumps in the middle really made the movie drag. But other than that, the performances knockout, stellar throughout for everyone involved. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, go and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, you can follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Reviews for Weird, the Al Yankovic story, and Enola Holmes 2 is out right now. We got plenty of reviews coming down here because we are now entering the holiday season, aka the end of the movie season for 2022. There are a ton of movies coming out here, so expect a lot of reviews to pop up on the channel between myself and Brian Michaels, as well as all of our end of the year videos where we do our most anticipated, our award show, and best, worst, most disappointing, and most surprising films of the year. So we got a ton coming on the channel here over the next month, 2 months, so be on the lookout for all those videos. And until next time, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Crusaders.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.